What's good, everybody? It's your boy Big Nate. Welcome to Big Nate's Book Reviews. I'm the best book reviews, and today we're reviewing In H Mart by Michelle Zauner. So I got my doobie right here. It is ready to be sparked, and today we are smoking this one for Michelle Zauner. So while I light this up, hit that like, hit that subscribe, drop a comment. We don't got time today to talk about it, to be discussing this, to be arguing it. Just hit that like, hit that subscribe. Don't even argue with me. Just do it. But yeah, okay. Let's talk about the book. So this book was published last year, 2021, in April. So it hasn't even been a full year yet. And this book was, and I believe still is. In fact, it is because I saw JBREKKIE post, Michelle Zauner post a story this morning saying, I think it's been on there for like 29 weeks. So it's an instant New York Times bestseller, I think, for nonfiction. And I ain't seen any other awards yet, but I feel like that's just because it's such a fresh release that it just has yet to be awarded. So we'll see how this video ages. I'm sure there are awards to come. It is definitely an award-worthy book. But yeah, so that's that. Some background about the author, Michelle Zauner. She is the lead of a band, of an indie pop band called Japanese Breakfast. That's what JBREKKIE was. And yeah, it's a pretty big band. Like, a few of the people I know have heard songs by Japanese Breakfast without having even heard of this book or heard of Michelle Zauner or whatever. So yeah, that's cool. And she's also done some directing, and now she's written this awesome memoir. So shout out to JBREKKIE. She is a creative powerhouse, and today we are smoking this one for JBREKKIE. So anyway, yeah, so that's just some background on the book. Let's talk about what the book is actually about. So I would say this book is about Michelle Zauner finding out her mom has cancer and flying from Philly. I think she was in Philly to Eugene, Oregon, which, just real quick, I gotta pay my dues, I gotta pay my respects. I'm in Eugene, Oregon right now, so shout out to Eugene, go Ducks, Ken Kesey, Ursula K. Le Guin, Ursula K. Le Guizzi, and now Michelle Zauner. So shout out to Eugene though. But anyway, she goes from Philly to Eugene to care for her mother, and the book sort of follows her as her mom's health deteriorates and as she eventually succumbs to cancer, and sort of the aftermath and the grieving that takes place after that. And throughout all of that is memories of Michelle Zauner and her mom growing up together and their relationship together. So that's kind of the story of this book. So just some like general comments. One, I thought the writing was really solid here. I thought the writing was really good. I think that's something that, in my experience at least, memoir kind of suffers from, is the stories are usually really cool. There's a story to be told there, but sometimes the writing is almost secondary, you know, like they're not writers, but they have a story to tell. Michelle Zauner seems like a writer to me. Like this reads like really good, and she majored in, I think, creative writing and film, I'm pretty sure it was. So yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, so her imagery, just with like places and settings and things, is really good. It's on point, as well as her descriptions of like her thoughts and feelings and emotions throughout this whole process. But what I really like about her, what she does in this book, is her descriptions of food, actually. So like food is all throughout the book. That is the common denominator in this book. This is like a food memoir, and she does it. So she names the dish, which is like usually like a Korean dish, and she doesn't just leave it there, which I think some authors would do. She describes the dish sort of at length, so you get an idea for its textures, for its tastes, for its colors, for its flavors, for its smells, all that kind of stuff. So that even if you've heard of this dish, or even if you've never heard of this dish, you got a pretty good idea of what it is. So that was just something cool that she does, which I feel like is kind of hard to describe food. I feel like that's something that needs to be experienced. It's very hard to transfer that over to the page, and I just thought she did that really well among all these other things. So yeah, okay, so there's a lot of themes in this book, right? That's actually one of the things I like about this book. It's very thematically rich. There's a lot I'm not going to be able to talk about, but sort of the most obvious and direct one is what it's like to have cancer, what it's like to care for someone with cancer, and especially when they're a loved one, and to watch and to watch as your someone you love basically sort of dies before your eyes. That's kind of like one of the themes of this book. Uh, and yeah, something that Michelle Zauner does that's cool with that, I think, is she don't really hold back on the cancer stuff. Like, cancer is such a prevalent part of our society. Like, I feel like everybody knows someone with cancer, or knows somebody who knows somebody with cancer. And we know it's bad and everything, but I mean, I certainly at least did not understand the full extent of what can come with that until I had read this book. She talks about how, whether it was from the cancer or the chemo, she talks about how her mom's tongue was getting blisters and sores, and like her tongue and her lips and shit like that. And like her hair is like kind of falling out. I mean, not kind. It is falling out, and she has a pretty crazy scene with that, and that really sucks because her mom was kind of like, in a wholesome way, like, into her appearances. So that was just really tough. And like others, like, describing her tongue as like a piece of like rotten meat, like a gray piece of rotten meat with like white webbing on it. Just some really sort of disturbing images related to cancer and the symptoms that come with it. But also, that's just like physical stuff, like the body, but there's also like psychological stuff that's going on here, because her mom, she talks about how her mom was like kind of like hallucinating and shit, kind of like talking gibberish, kind of acting a little crazy. And then like there's a scene where they're going to the doctor and her mom is like trying to claw her way out of like a moving ass vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, she's like literally so out of her mind that she is like trying to like just jump out of this moving car. Like, imagine your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or someone you love like being that out of their mind that they're doing that. It's just like some serious stuff. So I certainly didn't have that's not really what I thought about when I thought about cancer. And that's also part of it too, in fact, is the role of like the caretaker. You don't really think about the person, you think about the person with cancer, not the people taking care of them, but the people like to do, like the people who are taking care of them. That is like a seriously like a full-time ass job. Like, she talks about how it takes constant attention. There's nights where she's up all night at the hospital. They're like taking shifts. She's changing her mom's sheets because her mom keeps wetting the bed. She's changing the sheets every day. Then she has to shake the bedpan out once her mom can't control her bowels. She has to like bathe her. She has to change the catheter. She has to get her mom to try and eat when she doesn't want to, when she has sores and blisters on her tongue, and also get her to take like medicine. And like it's an extremely tough job, and I hadn't even thought about that shit really. So that's something else she talks about in this book. And I definitely gained some serious insight into what a lot of people must be dealing with. And in fact, honestly, like, this was kind of like the perfect time for me to read this book, but in the worst way, because someone I know, like in a professional capacity, but also in a personal capacity for sure, has been diagnosed with like advanced stage cancer. So this book really kind of hit home for me. And it'll probably hit home for a lot of people, because I think cancer has kind of touched everyone almost in some way, or it will. And so anyway, it's a good book for that stuff, but it's also a good book for like so much more. Like, the cancer is, it makes it sound like a really dark book. The book is very bright. It's very upbeat. There's a lot of great memories. It's a celebration of life, you feel me? But one of the things she talks about, one of the big, you could say that's like the central theme of this book, I would probably say that, is the ability for food to take on new meanings, for food to become sort of transcendent, to take on meaning above and beyond just the food. And there's so many different ways she does that. Like, it's really kind of insane. Like, for example, one is when she was growing up, her mom would pack her lunch just perfectly neat and perfectly tight. And during the Korean family gathering, she would keep track of what you're eating, like what plate you left empty. And then next party, she'd bring a double bash, like that kind of stuff, just kind of paying attention. So food is just an expression of love and of care. So there's that. And then another theme of this book, there's a lot of them, is that sort of role reversal where now Michelle Zauner, JBREKKIE, is the one caring for her mother. So now she as a caretaker, and she tries to comfort her mother through food. She tries to make all she gets there. She's like, all right, I'm gonna make all my mother's favorite like Korean dishes. So she takes hours and hours doing all that, and then her mom actually don't end up wanting it because she has like sores and like blisters and shit. So then she switches gears and makes like a soup or like a porridge dish that's like really smooth, really nice in texture and full of nutrients. So she uses again food as an expression of love and of care. And then after her mother dies, she talks about how she couldn't. She talks about how she couldn't remember her mom before the chemo, because she said like this was like the longest extended period they had for a while. Before she'd like been living with them or whatever. So she said she couldn't remember her mother before the chemo until she started cooking. And then she has like lines that are like, every dish exhumed a memory. Every dish she cooked exhumed a memory. And she talks about how she used food as a way to reconnect with her mother's memory, to re-experience with her, and just remember her through her memories as she was before the chemo. Like it was really good how she does that. And then of course the grieving process, she says food became a really critical part of that. In fact, she tried therapy and it didn't work. She said kimchi became my therapy. So she starts cooking, and all throughout the book, it's a way for her to cope with all these things, with all these like frustrations. Like when she's feeling incompetent as a caretaker, she cooks. When she's angry, she cooks. When her mom dies, she cooks. And then even with the kimchi, she says how like she got to like learn like how to make it, and she realized it took like weeks and weeks, months or whatever to get like the kimchi right and to have it. She realized how much preparation and precision and attention and foresight and time that it took to make this kimchi. And then she remembered how her mom, every time she would visit, would have kimchi like ready and waiting for her, just like how she likes it. So by learning how to cook, she was able to learn more about her mother and her mother's character and what all went behind that. So it's just a really rich book, rich with all kinds of examples like that. Like there is plenty where that came from. It's a really good book. So anyway, I'm gonna give my rating, and then we can just all go about our days. So I'm gonna give this book a B plus, which might even seem a little low, but no, B plus is great. It's a great book. And the only reason it's like B plus and not like an A or something is because at times her writing style wasn't kind of my thing. It's still super good and everything, and I can respect it. I just don't. It's just not me. So if you're anybody else, it's probably easily in the A range, I would say. So yeah, I mean that's kind of all I got to say. This is a great book. This is one of those books that I would like blanket recommend to anybody and everybody, especially if you're trying to get back into reading, because it's pretty short, and I feel like it's very easy to read, and it is jam-packed with insight. So I'd recommend it to anybody interested in that. Anybody interested in Korean culture as well, because just all throughout this book she talks about the values and norms and traditions of Korean culture and how they're different than the US, and it's great. It's a gold mine. It's a cultural gold mine. So anyway, couldn't recommend it more. Check out Japanese Breakfast. I listened to a song called Be Sweet or something like that, and I was really fucking with it. It was like an 80s type modern though. So anyway, thank you for watching another successful Big Nate's Book Reviews, home of the best book reviews.